Warren, if you met Zuckerberg and if you sat down with him and he told you, is there any way that he could explain the business well enough to you to where you'd take a huge stake in Facebook?
Probably not. That doesn't mean that I'm negative about it. I just don't understand it well enough. And I'm actually not even a member. There's a billion of them out there. So I like to buy things where I feel I've got a reasonable idea of how the business is going to be doing 5 or 10 years ago, just like for 10 years from now, just like I would buy an apartment house or a farm with the idea that I would think it was going to be a good thing to own 5 or 10 years later.
There is a watershed event tomorrow that might change your view, and you are free to send me questions as well if you'd like, Warren. But this is a game changer for Facebook.
Kernan's going to be on Facebook. So.
Well, actually, Joe, I thought instead, you've always wanted a share of NetJets. I've got a NetJets tie here, and instead of giving you an 8, I'm going to take this. There's dozens of planes on this, and I'm going to give this to Becky to take back to you.
Wow.
You are now a major net.
Here we go, Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
Here we are.
But even at this time, you said, look, even at Google and Apple now, you wouldn't be a buyer, but you wouldn't short them either.
I wouldn't short them either. No, I wouldn't short. I would not short Facebook. I would not short Google. I would not short Apple. They're fantastic companies. But in terms of what they'll be worth 5 or 10 years from now, I just don't know.
All right, Warren, thanks.
Thank you.
Are you on Facebook?
No.
Is Facebook a company that Berkshire or you would put your money in?
Well, the answer is I don't invest in what I don't understand, and I don't want to understand Facebook.
Why?
I don't want people putting all this personal stuff into a permanent record when they're 15 years of age and all that. I think it's counterproductive. I just basically don't like it.
You oppose the whole idea of it.
Yes.
So you're not putting any money there?
Well, I wouldn't put any money there, even if I kind of liked it, because I would feel I didn't understand it well enough to invest in it.
Warren, over the weekend we talked a little bit about this, and you mentioned that you have spoken with Mark Zuckerberg about what he needs to be doing with his company. When did you talk to him?
Last year at Sun Valley.
And what was the basic, did he come to you or did you reach out to him?
Well, he or Cheryl or somebody said, they'd like to get together to talk a little bit about Facebook, and so we talked.
Obviously, you've been in a position of taking a private company public. Is that basically what you were talking about?
Yeah, although we didn't exactly. I took a private company public when I was in the tech world and with data documents many years ago, but Berkshire we never really took public.
Well, you're a public company now. It started out as a private partnership. Sure. When you look at what's happening with Facebook, I know that this is not something you're a fan of, but you're also not saying that at this point you wouldn't buy into it because it's not something that you feel comfortable with, but you don't think this is a bubble scenario.
Oh, no. I'm an agnostic on a company like Facebook. Anytime you get a truly extraordinary business, and it's obviously, it's an extraordinary business, but they're the hardest ones to value, because the question is whether 5 or 10 years from now that they will be as extraordinary as they are now, or they may keep doing more and more wonderful things. So it's just harder to figure out than, we'll say Coca-Cola. I mean, Coca-Cola 10 years from now is going to be bigger and more profitable in my view than it is now, but there won't be some quantum change in either direction. So it's much easier for me to figure out what Coca-Cola is worth than Google or Facebook or you name it. I would never short those stocks, and I'm not saying they have anything but brilliant futures, but I just don't know.
Right. So that's the question: is when it's a fast-growing company in a quickly changing arena.
It's just harder to figure, and it's fascinating to watch. But I don't have to draw a conclusion on even tens of stocks. I just have to look at 1 or 2 and feel that I've got a reasonable fix on what those companies will look like in 5 or 10 years.